Hello, everybody. It's Mariner here. How are you doing? It's game week 12. We've got through this international break. Thank goodness. I think we're all well and truly done with watching England beat the pub team. And then everybody buys all the players. You know, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, enough of that. I've got two of my able shipmates joining me again, as usual. Gabe, FPL Lens in Phoenix. How are you doing, man?
Good morning. I'd say 3/4 able at this point after kids and then the run around, but I'm invigorated seeing a familiar face with us here this morning, Mariner, Mr. Sham.
Yes, Sham is back, big at the back. He's back.
Mr. Big at the back.
Mr. Big at the back. How are you doing, my friend?
That's a reputation to keep. I'm great. Hello, fellas. How are you doing?
It's by no means a reference to your body, Sham.
My posterior. Yeah, I know.
It's not.
We can live with that.
That's bloody rude, that is. You can't be rude to our guests.
I'm trying to smooth the waters. I'm trying to make you made some waves by calling Sham big at the back.
That's my job, to be rude.
I can live with that. It's okay.
I haven't started on him about Arsenal yet. Anyway, give me a chance.
I'll stay in my lane.
Anyway, guys, it's lovely to see you. And thanks for joining us, Sham. It's really appreciated. Okay, so what we got today? Well, we're going to do the usual stuff for the matchup show. But we must point you again, as always, at the video on demands, which are now starting to come out on the Net That Haul channel. There is this week's fixture difficulty. It's only 8 minutes long, so just about get 3 or 4 beers in during that time, if you're from Grimsby, whilst you're watching it. So go grab a beer or two and watch that. There's also the evergreen content. The Zonal Matchups is also live now, so go and grab a chunk of that and take a read. What else have we got to say? Well, if you've not subscribed already to the channel, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and yeah, apart from that, I think it's time to get started with the show, and we are going to do a philosophy of the week. Have you been on since we've done a philosophy of the week, Sham? I don't think you have.
No, I haven't.
No. Well, what I want you to do first of all is this is the philosophy of the week, Sham, and I'd like you to read it out, because I tried to read it out earlier and I bloody well couldn't. I got it wrong about 5 times.
You did. This is going to be good.
Sham, this is good. This is your chance to show that you are better. You can put your teeth in rather than me.
Show us that you can swim in deep waters here, Sham.
Come on, Sham.
This is amazing. FPL philosophy of the week. Truth is found neither in the thesis nor the antithesis, but in an emergent synthesis which reconciles the two. And this is by Hegel. I'm pretty amazed by this. This is too profound. Probably the most profound thing I've ever said in my life.
I couldn't say that earlier. So it's by George Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. Hegel.
Yeah.
Very good. Sham went the easy route. He cut out the first 3 names and he just went Hegel.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, that's me sat on the toilet, Gabe. Now, please explain.
All right. So I have to say the reading was great. There was good drama in it. I think you could do this, Sham. This is a new role for you. So if we think of our own thoughts as the thesis, right, and opposing views, like truly opposing views that challenge our own thinking as antithetical views, so the antithesis, what Hegel said, and is a German philosopher, he talked about kind of how our consciousness grows and how we construct knowledge through that consciousness, right? And he says this is the way to do it: is you get 2 opposing views and you put them together. And the synthesis that emerges from that's where the true wisdom lies. And that's where personal evolution lies. Now, mind you, that doesn't mean that you have to adopt, an opposing view, but you do have to consider it. And in that consideration alone, we grow. Mariner's, for the podcast listeners, Mariner's desk elevates and it goes down. And right now he's stuck in the mud. Because of the philosophy.
It's gone too heavy for him.
It's gotten too heavy for him.
Exactly. Yeah, it's too heavy for me as well. But this is pretty profound. As I said, this is probably the most profound thing I've ever said, even though I was just reading it out.
I've got 3 beers lined up just for that philosophy section.
You're going to need them just for this section.
So have you actually explained what it means for FPL?
I thought I just did. No?
Oh, I was listening. I was too busy putting the desk up and down. Anyway, you explained it.
You were stuck in the mud.
But is he talking about 2 views joining together and coming up with a better idea then, right? You said something like
that. Yes. Consider different points of view. Even if you don't adopt them, the act of considering them is an act of evolution in itself.
That's a bit like the way me and you play FPL then.
Yeah.
Numbers, an eye test.
For sure.
And then you need 2 to come up with a suitable, disastrous outcome.
It's how Net That Haul was born, isn't it? Net That Haul is a Hegelian product, I think you could say.
Well, or whatever one of them is. Yeah. I'm sorry. I love this philosophy thing, but I haven't got a bloody clue about it. You could just imagine me being philosophical, really, can't you?
Well, honestly, I think that's the whole motivation behind it, is just to see you laugh and squirm every time it comes up.
Squirm because I don't understand what the hell you're on about. Anyway, should we say hello to a few people? Right, yes. We've got Donnie in. Hello, Donnie. Mrs. Mariner's fine. She's extremely pregnant. And just to let everybody know, this will be my last show till probably mid-December. So I'll keep you aware of how things go. But yes, she is very due. Who else we got? Nehal's in. Blue Danube guy. Mike Halpin in. Hi, Mike. Nima's in. Hello, buddy. The Fantasy Pavilion. Our friends from Trinidad and Tobago, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or Trinidad. I think he's in Trinidad, is he? FPL Escapades is here as well. What is it? States? USA? Escapades?
No, okay. Escapades is India.
India. Okay. I was getting mixed up. FPL Lens is in. Hello. I didn't think you were here. Anyway, you are. Sleepy Joe. FPL Vigorish. Akib's in. Ramanthan's in. Yes. Aaron Aberdeen. I think that is new. I think a new gentleman, but love from the Fantasy Pavilion. So another one of the guys who perhaps I was busy causing trouble on their stream yesterday morning whilst I was working. And yes, who else have we got? FPL Penguin, hi buddy. FPL Trinity, FPL Masher, and Ant A. Hi everybody. Right, we're not going to go through how we did last week because it's 2 weeks ago and we didn't do very well. So we're going to save our time and go straight into the fixture difficulties for this game week. And I've noticed the first deliberate mistake, Gabe, because you were supposed to check this, but it says game week 11, not 12.
Oh, you should have checked that, Mariner. I got to tell you, man.
Bloody ridiculous. Anyway.
Next slide. Oh, do they all say that?
Oh, God.
It's okay. These are smart guys. They'll understand. It's okay.
I understand it. Anyway, game week 12 it is, not game week 11. I'm stuck in the bloody past as usual. Anyway, for game week 12, who has the best matchup? Manchester United. Now, come on, guys. Is it time for this gentleman to turn up again, Sean? He's got a fantastic matchup this week. 2.6.
Yeah.
You think?
And yeah, I think so. I do think so. See, look, at some point of time, this has to turn around. They have far too much quality, right? At least the goals will come. Do not know about the defense. And I think, so this is kind of a in-between week, right? This happens, then there is a bad fixture that comes in. But soon after that, there is a sustained amount of brilliant run that Cristiano has. And I do believe that at some point of time, he does become relevant. And especially, as in, you know what? It's not a differential pick at all. Cristiano, will get a goal. He might not be contributing to anything else in the team, but he will get goals. So Cristiano, again, can never be a bad pick. So relevant.
Ole out, apparently, according to Akib. One thing I'll say is they have got a fantastic matchup this week, so we really need to keep an eye on that. Yes. If you own him, well, we'll come to that a bit later, Gabe, won't we? Liverpool home against Arsenal, 2.1, second best matchup of the week, even with, although we'll come to this later, my fixture difficulty I don't think takes into account Ramsdale. Southampton away at Norwich, third best, 1.9. City against Everton, West Ham against Wolves, also pretty good. 1.7, Brentford 1.1. Not so good, just in case you're thinking about that issue. But of course, the reason for that is, as we've been saying just recently, Brentford are away, and they are not as good away as they are at home. I'm going to come to a matchup a bit further down. We are going to cover it a bit later, but just the first inkling of what we might be talking about, Gabe. Spurs matchup 0.4 only against Leeds at home. I'm just going to say, I don't know what you want to say to come back at this, but I'm just going to say, I think this shows how far they've got to go to improve. Would you generally agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that. I mean, I can understand the inclination to want to captain maybe somebody like Kane, but I have to say, I in my opinion, that's confusing an aspiration with reality. You buy Kane and Son, they're aspirational picks, right? We see the potential under that new system with Conte. Yes, exactly. Me too. But we can't confuse our aspirations for fact or data, right? So if you want to captain a player, for example, from Spurs, you have to realize that you're going based on your hopes and dreams. You're not going based on any evidence. As long as you're okay with that and you're okay with the pitfalls of that approach, then go for it. But I think there are many better options, at least at this point.
Fair enough. Okay, right. We'll come back to that anyway. We're going to look at that a bit more detail later. Defensively, in game week 12, 11 or 12, Manchester City, 2.4. Now, I own both of these gentlemen. I think it's about time they both delivered, Mr. Diaz and Mr. Cancelo.
So do I.
Please. 2.4 against Everton. It's a very, very strong matchup. That is Burnley, 1.8 against Palace. Now then, that's interesting, all you Gallagher owners. We'll come on to that a little bit later as well. Gabe and I might have a fight about this. You never know. Liverpool, 1.4 against Arsenal. Liverpool, for the first time ever, are making an appearance on my defensive matchup.
There's the laugh. Because it's against Arsenal.
Because it's against Arsenal and they're away from home. In fact, Nima is in the chat. Nima, please just, I know you've said it, but even you agree that Arsenal are bad attacking away from home. I think.
What are your thoughts on that, Sean?
What do you think, Sean?
I have Trent and Robbo.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Of course. You got the same team as last year.
Almost. I have Trent and Robbo and Diaz and Cancelo.
You know we have unlimited transfers in the off season, right? Like between seasons, you can change your team.
Yeah. But hey, Liverpool has been defensively a little bit shaky, and I do not know. Arsenal has not been excellent in these kinds of fixtures. So probably 1.4 is, it doesn't shock me. It does surprise me a little bit, but it isn't like absolutely, I'm not falling down or anything.
It's not too positive, to be fair to Liverpool. Yeah. But what I'm saying is Liverpool, I've gone on record many times and said that I don't rate Liverpool's defence. Although this year they're doing an awful lot better. And I'll mention something later on. The problem is, of course, is Arsenal are doing an awful lot worse as well. And I think that's the other side of the coin there. What else have we got? Brentford, reasonable chances of a clean sheet too. And Manchester United, maybe not. I think it's getting a bit tight there, I think. So that's that side of it. So defensively, that's the best matchups. And average-wise, we've got old Slabhead here. Manchester City, Manchester United, Manchester City 2.1, Manchester United 1.9. So basically, attack and defence just averaged, right? Slabhead there. Obviously Manchester City, we don't need to say anything. That's Cancelo, right? Probably. But Slabhead here. And Gabe and I we always try to do a bit of a preparation chat on this one. And this lunchtime, I'll let you into a little secret, guys. Gabe and I had the meeting this lunchtime. And we got chatting about this, and Gabe nearly fell off his chair when he saw this slide. Literally nearly fell off his chair.
I lobbied hard against this.
I said, don't you take the piss out of my pick here. Manchester United have a fourth for headers away from home at 2.4 per 90. And Watford have conceded their most headers at home this season at 2.8 per 90 minutes. And then you checked something, Gabe, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Go on then.
So Mr. Slabhead here this season he has 8 headed goal attempts. Now the interesting thing about that is because when I think of Slabhead headed goal attempts, I think of headed goal attempts over the bar, right? But all 8 of them have been on target, which I thought was very interesting. However, for our purposes here, I'm going to maintain my position that Slabhead has no purpose here. He's no purpose on this show. Nobody's going to get him. We're not recommending to get any Manchester United defenders.
I'm saying he's scoring headers for fun for England. He's back. He's terrible at defence, but he'll score a header.
He's playing against 10-year-olds or the equivalent of 10-year-olds in national teams for England. This means nothing.
I'm lost.
Zero.
For words. I'm
Zero.
Lost for words. My England flag over there is drooping.
Okay, so I rest my case.
Actually, honestly, you cannot make any approximation with the midweek games, with these international games.
I'm pulling your legs, guys.
Yeah.
The point is that he is known for his headed goals.
Yeah.
He would top the Souček watch, wouldn't he?
I like my headed matchups, you know I do. And
Yeah,
I always
yeah.
try and look for one. If I see one and it pays off, then I will tweet about it. That's about the only tweet I send out all weekend.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Okay, so that's that. And of course, Liverpool, Trent, fresh from feasting for England in midfield, pretty much. Again, against Arsenal, potentially. But we'll come on to the matchups and things so in a minute. So, right, let's have a quick look at the net XG, Gabe. This is your baby, isn't it? So I'm going to let you have a look at this. I mean, shall I just... Do you want me to set the scene, or are you?
Yeah, go for it. Set the scene.
All right, so I'm going to set the scene. So the best net XG this week: City at 2.38 expected goals, Brentford 2.35, and United at 2.13. Again, if you Brentford sellers, any of you Tony sellers, we might be telling you off later. Leicester, on the other hand, 0.71 right at the bottom, followed by Watford 0.81, Everton 0.86, and Arsenal 0.9. So, Gabe, tell us how the net XG is going.
Well, I think it's in development, it's evolving, and here one of the evolutions is that I'll share right now is when we're looking at the kind of on the lower end of the spectrum. So we have Leicester at 0.71, Watford at 0.81, Everton at 0.86, and Arsenal at 0.9. It's not appropriate to just round up, right? So that Leicester at 0.71, that doesn't necessarily mean a goal. So to explain that a little bit is when you look at an X. Like, let's just take XG, for example. When an XG is, say, 0.71 or predicted XG, that means all of the shots in that match total up to 0.71 XG, right? So if we're thinking a team gets about 10 shots in a match, totaling 0.71, you're looking at less than 0.1 XG per shot. And if you have 7 shots of less than 0.1 XG, it's not unreasonable to think that it's actually going to be a 0. The result will be 0 goals, right? So like I said, like we're learning through this process and kind of learning as we go, and also developing it on the side to get it to refine it a little bit. But I think it's interesting to note that Brentford is still quite high, and I think Brentford is buoyed a little bit by their early season success. And if we take maybe variance like your FDR takes into account, Mariner, I think I think Brentford may be overestimated here in for net XG. I don't know if I expect them to score, 2 or more goals against, even if it is against Newcastle. But with Newcastle being such an unknown, I think that's a wait and see. City, we'll get to City a little bit later as well when we get to how net XG has developed further. City's at 2.38, but when you look at their finishing and the quality of their players, could they score more? I think that's possible, and I'll talk more about that later. Let's see. And then as far as there's so much change in the league right now, there are new managers, teams shifting, that I think all predictions should be taken kind of with context, like we always say. Anything stand out to you, Sean?
As usual, you're backtracking away from predicting anything. It's quite normal. This is Sean. Gabe tries Gabe thinks about doing predictions, and then puts his numbers up, and then says, "Of course, you don't want to believe them."
Well, so just that's true. That's very true. And just to kind of like compound that, one of the things we're working on for NetXG is to not have a predicted score or predicted result, but to have a probability range. So we go say from like let's go 10% to 30% back down to 10% for a given score.
Okay.
So we're gonna muddy up the predictions even further through the Sleepy Joe process.
I might have to pour beer in my eye like I had to nearly this morning when 7 o'clock this morning, Sean. The first thing I did, I looked at my phone and I got a message from Gabe with an equation about probability, and I was like, for F's sake, man, it's 7 o'clock in the morning here. What the hell are you doing to me?
It's a binomial function in Excel. I'm like, Mariner, take a look at this. He's like,
yeah, unbelievable.
Okay.
Brilliant. John, what's your view of this NetXG? Have you been looking at this? Have you seen?
I have.
What's your perspective of it? It's always nice to ask guests what they think of this type of thing.
Right. I've been looking at this for a bit, as in just when you started, discussing this, started bringing this idea to the fore. I'd been looking at this, and I feel this is really innovative, and this is really, especially what you have been talking about in terms of this could be a range, right? Rather than this is a specific point, this is the line that I'm casting on the sand and then moving forward. It makes a lot of sense. I also just had while you were explaining this, Gabe, I had a thought, as in, how does it matter? How does it differ? As in, say, for example, you have a team XG, right? Team, kind of, team XG kind of a thing. Would that differ with individual players coming in as well? As in, we assume that this is the standard number for Chelsea, for example, right? And that has been with Lukaku, without Lukaku, and there might be a little bit of a variance with an elite finisher like Lukaku versus somebody who's not, like, say, for example, if you start with Werner, for example. So probably a consideration as well. As in, when I'm looking at your Chelsea number, I'm thinking that this is good, because when the numbers are good, and once Lukaku comes in, probably it'll be, it'll probably be even better with an elite finisher in the game as well. So just thinking out loud, I do not know if that is in consideration already, but that was kind of a thought process that I had.
Go ahead, Mariner.
I was going to say, one thing we thought about, isn't it, Gabe, is that what we need to do is we need to compare against the opposition that they've done what they've done against as well. So, perhaps, and also the circumstances of the previous games as to why the scores have gone. Let's say a player's been sent off and all of a sudden someone gets tanked 5-0. Then, should we strike that data out? There's a lot more conversations going on in the background. But, I mean, what I like about this is that it thinks about the goalkeeper, right? And you see Liverpool there, 1.4 against Arsenal, right? I'm quite convinced if you didn't take into account the goalkeeper, that would be above 2. But because Ramsdale is in such good form, Gabe's equation is taking goals off Liverpool.
Right. Oh, that's fantastic.
That's how it works, right, Gabe?
Yeah, and that's exactly why Liverpool is so low. We see they're obviously one of the best attacks in the league, maybe the best. But the expected goals prevented stat from Ramsdale is dragging Liverpool's number down. But But more specifically go ahead.
He's going to concede 5 this week. I'm playing Steel.
I probably would too, but Shum, you bring up a really good point, and when you do averages for teams, right, you lose the individual qualities of the player. Like like you mentioned, Werner. A Werner attack is not the same as a Lukaku attack, and a Havertz attack is not the same as a Lukaku attack either, right? So that's actually one of the developments of NetXG. Something we're working on the side is not just individual players, but individual shots. So breaking down the XG of individual shots of individual players against individual opponents. So you can imagine the kind of the heavy load that is. It's just like, to work that kind of data it's a lot of work. And so we would need some help, I think, from a stat site, in terms of some kind of sponsorship to kind of maintain a model like that, because it's so much data and it's so granular.
Right.
But rest assured, we
so
are developing
that.
So
what are you waiting for, sponsors? Get in touch with that Haul.
Exactly. Help us develop this metric. Honestly, that's really what we need is some support from some site, so we can develop it further and do that heavy data lifting that's needed for such granular kind of metrics.
We probably need some brains as well, but that's another story. That's certainly anyway. But anyway, guys, let's keep going. What I want to do now is what we do, Shom, as well, is because we've got 2 different types of metrics, what we're trying to do now is compare the 2. So we always do this. Now, last week, there was quite a bit of divergence, interestingly enough, when we looked at it, wasn't there, Gabe? This week, there isn't. Very strangely, it's almost on par. And we've done nothing. We haven't adjusted anything. All we've done is move the fixtures on a week, plug some more data in, and this is what it's come out with. So if we look at the overall considerations, who come out best? Well, Manchester United ranked top, has still been the best fixture. 2.13 net XG, 2.6 fixture difficulty. Man City, second ranking, 2.38 net XG, 1.7 fixture. Brentford, then Brentford. But there's a divergence there, 2.35 net XG and 1.1 fixture difficulty. Net XG sees something that fixture difficulty does not. Interestingly enough, I'm not quite sure what that is. But I'm going to look at the other divergences, Gabe, as well. We've mentioned Liverpool. What about Spurs? 1.73 net XG. Yet my fixture difficulty has got them at 0.4. What do you reckon to that one?
There it is. Okay. Spurs 1.73 versus 0.4.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, they're ranked 7 and 10, so maybe not diverging that much. I'm wondering if it's just ranges, or is there something in there?
I will tell you right now as I bring up one of my tables, and I have a theory, and that's why I just want to make sure. And let's see, where's this? Melier. A theory. Whoops. This is all my. No, my theory is not correct. So that's why you got to check these things. So Melier, it's interesting. Melier started the season with a horrible expected goals prevented. Mariners in the mud again in his mud desk.
This is you. I'm doing an impression of you. You're in the
No, I'm good. So Melier started the season with a horrible expected goals prevented, one of the worst in the league. But it's since improved, and that's what I was checking. He's now at net minus 1.5 xGP for the season, which over 11 matches it's pretty neutral. It's not that bad. I thought that would be what's kind of buoying the Spurs attack here. I honestly, I mean, it's 7th. Like, I like to look at the rankings. It's 7 compared to 10th. I don't think that's that much of a difference when compared to the field. Like, if we move up, I think the Liverpool one, which we already discussed, is a stark difference. I have them 9th versus 2nd for Mariners metric, and that's, as we discussed, that's the expected goals prevented stat taking effect in there.
One that stands out is the Leicester, isn't it? Leicester,
yes.
0.71 net XG, 20th, against a minus 0.3 fixture difficulty. Is that the opposite of Ramsdale with Schmeichel still? Is that a Schmeichel letting goals in sort of scenario, causing your.
Well, no, I mean, the Schmeichel wouldn't affect the Leicester.
Yeah, that's right. It wouldn't, would he? So why is it so bad? Why is that so bad?
I was actually going to ask you, why is yours so good? They're playing Chelsea, one of the best defenses in the league. They haven't Leicester. Yeah, they've scored their goals against weaker opposition.
You turned it around on me, thanks.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I did check it, and it is right, but it's very strange. I mean, what I would say is that, you know, I can see Leicester getting something at home against Chelsea. It'll be definitely Harvey Barnes' day.
Let's see.
Tom, do you know how much Gabe hates Harvey Barnes?
Question: the goal that Harvey Barnes scored the last game week. What was the XG of that? Would you know? It should be pretty low, right? It was crazy angle.
I can look it up really quick here.
We had the example of Salah, didn't we? We used before, Gabe, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Was it 0.05? The one against Watford.
Yes, it was.
So his goal against Watford was 0.05.
Wow! Oh, this was that unbelievable thing, right?
Yeah.
Dribbling through 4 players.
Anyway, we'll let you look that up whilst we move on, Gabe, because I want to go to the zonal matchups just whilst we're chatting. Now, this is where it gets interesting.
This is my favorite.
This is where it gets interesting. So we're going to have a look at this in a bit more detail. And Sean, I want you to. I'd love to have your insights on this as well. So look, let's talk through it first. First of all, United's left 4.3 chances per 90. By the look of things. Liverpool's left 4.1, whoever that's going to be. Maybe Mane, maybe Robertson, if he's fit. And City's left, whoever that's going to be. And then centre, let's just run through them and then we'll just pick a few out, mate. Centre, Southampton have the best matchup at 4.3 against Norwich. So, and then there's Chelsea against Leicester. At 3.9, and then Arsenal, Liverpool, and City all at 3.8. And on the right, we've got Mo. It's not Liverpool anymore.
Essentially,
Mo, 5. Right. And then we've got Reece James sat there quite happily as well at 4.4. And then we've got Wolves against West Ham at 3.9. Which matchups have caught your eye this week when it comes to zonals, Sean? Which ones do you like?
So Liverpool against Arsenal. This is really interesting. On the left, see on the right, we pretty much know where it is, right? So it is interesting that probably the most defensive-minded right wing, right fullback that we have, that's Tomiyasu, right? So would that matter with the form that Salah is in right now? I do not know, right? But on the other hand, from the other side, from the left, you find 4.1, right? That is quite interesting because this is where Arsenal has most of their attack, right? So interesting development. I'm very interested to see Southampton against Norwich at 4.3 through the center, right? That is essentially saying that whoever is playing at striker, which is Adams plus the other person, which would probably be what is that guy's name? Armstrong, right? Probably be Armstrong or Breuer, whoever it is, will have a field day. Now that is a price point that many people will have to consider moving Tony out, right? So will that be a consideration that one can consider? I wouldn't. I'm sticking with Tony. I feel that what is Tony's central piece over here?
3.6.
That's still pretty reasonable, right? That's still pretty reasonable.
It's all right. Yeah, it's all right. And the thing is with someone like Tony, you see, is you look at these and then you think, right, okay, what is their involvement as well? So, for example, if the player's talismanic and getting involved in a lot of these chances, and you look where these chances are coming, then you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, there's a fair chance that it could well be him who's actually involved in it, right?
Correct.
Whereas, of course, if you look at it from down that side, you look and then you think, well, actually, he hasn't got any goal involvement all season. Then you think, well, even if there is a chance, it's not going to be him. So you've got to use these all again in context, Gabe, haven't you, I think? And and I think going back to what we were saying earlier, for example, Reece James, 10 chances the other week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
10
with
chances.
With Lukaku returning, that could be even more now, right?
So, it's very interesting. I like this because what I like about it is that it gives us an inkling of where things might actually happen. And again, if people have not watched the VOD, I suggest please do take a look, because we nearly got we claimed a little bit of success from the Liverpool and from the Liverpool West Ham game, a little bit. But to be honest, probably the game which really stuck out to me, where it really worked, was Liverpool against Manchester United when Mo came up against Shaw.
Yep.
That was always going to be a long afternoon, and it turned out to be exactly that. Yeah, I mean, it's. Have you got anything you want to add on the matchups this week, Gabe?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Sean. Go ahead, Sean.
I have one small point to make, and this is the question that I asked you, Mariner, if you remember, that between Antonio and Jimenez, if you have to pick one person, who will you go for? And that right there is my answer. 3.1 versus 2.9. That's incremental, but that's a good incremental. So,
well, I've sold Jimenez anyway.
Yeah.
I sold Jimenez.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
okay.
I've sold him. Yeah, I've sold him for Hwang, and I brought Kane in for Vardy.
Oh wow, that's a brave move.
Yeah, but that also means I've got the money to move to Jota. So if I won't take a hit unless Jota's gonna, because I could get priced out if there's two price moves, I can get priced out. So I will take a hit if I have to, but if not, I'll serve it till next week and then move it as early as I can, or as late as I can next week. But yeah, that's the plan. I can't miss out on it. Liverpool's fixtures are just too green. And I want some Spurs cover, and I want to get back to Ronaldo in 16. That's my idea anyway. So unfortunately, Mr. Jimenez has left the building. So is Vardy. So anyone who owns Vardy, please keep him, because I've sold him. I mean, you know what's going to happen next when I sell Vardy. It happens every single year, right? Gabe, I'm going to come to you. Longer.
Well, hold on. I go back.
Oh, did you want to bring something on this one?
Yeah, I want to bring up that fear that you have about what's going to happen to you with Vardy is going to happen to you with Jimenez. I'm calling it now.
Oh yeah, you told me that earlier in the week, but I ignored you.
You did ignore me, and here's where, like, just to the point of of adding context, right? When I look at these zonal matchups, what I like to look at is I look at the row across, and I look if there's anything that stands out, right? So for Wolves, you see how the matchup on the right is much better, right, than the center or the left. When you have such a big discrepancy like that, that's where I like to take note. We have similar ones for Southampton, with 4.3 in the middle versus 3.4 on the left and 3.6 on the side. For Wolves, just for those in the listening to the podcast, it's 3.9 on the right, 2.9 in the center, and 1.9 down the left. So you just sold the player that's mostly on the right, Mariner, the 3.9. But you gain savings, and again, context, right? You're going to gain savings, you're going to gain Kane, you're going to gain Jota. So I think the move does.
I had a coffee this morning, and I said, "What do you reckon to this move?" And you said, "Brilliant." When I was having a coffee this morning, sat outside.
You know, you're having a coffee. I'm on my fourth beer. It's context.
12 hours later, 14 hours later, you tell me it's crap.
You know, I encountered. Look, I had a thesis.
I'm going back here. Look, you're telling me Wolves are good, but your bloody net XG only has them at 1.15.
So if they score a goal, what's Jimenez?
West Ham's 1.69.
What's Jimenez's expected goal involvement? When Wolves score, we can expect Jimenez to be involved, right? And when the matchup on the right side is so nice. I'm just saying, context. Your context, it makes sense, but I did want to bring up.
Look, I had to sacrifice somebody. It was Diaz, or it was Jimenez. I am not selling Diaz.
Of course, that's the message, right? It is context. But what my point to bring up here is it's so much better on that right hand side, those are the things I look for. I think Watford's right hand side has an interesting advantage as well. Again, we're looking at just like Mo had an advantage against Shaw. Sar could have that advantage. Sar could do something against United this week. That's what I wanted to add.
Anyway, Neem is asking me before he leaves, can I buy Koufal again when West Ham fixtures turn? I might well do that, actually. Yeah, I like him.
But will he get back into the team?
I have no idea.
Johnson is playing pretty decent.
Yeah, someone said to me, told me to buy Johnson instead of to downgrade Diaz to Johnson.
I can't see Johnson holding his spot over Soufal.
Soufal will be back. Yeah. Soufal, there we go. I call him Koufal. I'm from Grimsby. Gabe, please tell me all about Jared Bowen. He's a very popular. He's a very popular discussion point at the moment, and I'm very interested in Jared Bowen, but not until game week 16. Tell us about what this is showing.
So let's see here. Bring this up on my end. So we have Jared Bowen. He's at let's see, West Ham. What does it say? 3.1 game week 12 to 15.
There we are. 3.1 there. 3.1 on the right, game week 12. 4.2 game week 12 to 15, right?
And I think that's what we're looking at is that delta, right? The matchup on the right hand side for West Ham goes from 3.1 to 4.2. However, which is a greater delta than the left side, which goes from 3.4 to 4.1. However, they both go to roughly the same kind of difficulty. So while I like Bowen, I don't know that I'm ready to predict whether West Ham are going to attack more from the right or with Bowen or attack more from the left with Ben Rahma.
Yeah. So selling soon.
So if you're selling one and then thinking of bringing in the other, I think that road could be fraught with some peril.
I've got to sell him for Jota anyway. I've got no option. Jota's coming in. So, I mean, look, what I'm saying is that I actually like the look of this. And I'll tell you, what I like about this is I see upside. He's doing well now with the matchups the way they are now. If these matchups improve further, we are saying that he's going to have an extra chance a game down that, potentially an extra chance a game down that right side.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point which we're saying here. So it's quite interesting. Sean, can I come to you?
Yeah.
Have you got any longer term targets with respect to players you're looking at? Have you got on your little watch list? You can only have 5 defenders, I'm afraid, but I know you'd like more. But which players are you actually looking at longer term, and do they actually fit with what you're seeing here, for example? So who have you got on your watch list?
Looking at this, one name just popped immediately, and that is Brighton's right side, 3.6 between game week 12 and 15. You know where I'm going over here, right?
Oh,
Brighton right side, Tariq Lamptey, 4.4.
God, Tariq, looking at. Oh God, Mr. Greenhouse.
Actually, made of glass.
He's made of glass. I absolutely love him, but I'm worried sick his leg falls off.
Well, that's the risk you take, right?
I mean, do you want to take that risk going into the fixture crunch? It's the leg falling off combined with the fixture crunch that puts me off Lamptey. And I love him. I love ex-Lively players, so he's a fun player to have.
I thought about, though, and I'll tell you why I thought about it, because Livramento was originally my 5th defender. And if I ever thought of downgrading one of my premium defenders, I would keep Livramento, downgrade one of my previous premium defenders, and I'd bring Lamptey in as cover for Brighton, which I don't have. And he could sit 5th if needed. And if his leg does fall off, I've still got players like Brownhill and Hwang who can come off the bench anyway. So I actually think it's not. There's an argument to say, do you really need 3 playing defenders? I think you have 3 playing subs. I tend to go that way at this time of year, but I do know that some people are thinking, I don't know, I can get away with 2. So if you think you can get away with 2 and you fancy a bit of a punt on Lamptey, go for it. I think it's a great shout. It's one of those. It's the always cheating, make fantasy fun again pick of the week, isn't it? I think so. I love it.
I love the pick too. I love the pick. I saw the numbers, and that's what popped out for me.
Yeah,
I love the player. The one thing I don't know if is Brownhill really. I mean, are you gonna rely on Brownhill? Come on.
No, he's gonna sit 3rd on the bench.
Yeah, 3rd on the bench, right?
Third on the bench.
If Lamptey's hurt, Brownhill's 2nd on the bench all of a sudden, and you're really down to 1 sub.
Well, that's the same as if you've got Will Scarlett, whoever it is.
That was going to be my next point. And some people have a non-playing forward, for example. So to bring in Lamptey and then have, if your bench is a non-playing forward, Lamptey and Brownhill, I think you might be asking for some trouble.
Yeah, no, I think
if you're extending that far, just
I certainly wouldn't go for Lamptey with a non-playing third player.
Right.
No, that is dangerous.
Exactly.
Especially when you might have rotational players as well. When you might have James and Chilwell and Cancelo and players like that who are all inevitably going to be benched somewhere over the next 10 weeks, right? They're all going to get a benching. And if they just happen to be benched, two of them all of a sudden out of three get benched the same game week, then you're going to be relying on your bench, aren't you? And then what would be worse than to see Lamptey's leg fall off just at the same time?
Exactly. And Nick, Blue Nicks _99 here. He asked a good question, kind of a rhetorical question here. Who finishes Lamptey's crosses? If he was supplying a DCL, he'd be in 100% of teams. Kind of agree with that. Like, he's crossing into fucking Neil Maupay.
Yeah. but that's the point, right? That's the reason why he is 4.4.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Yeah, good point.
Yes. It's baked into the price.
And the fact his leg falls off a lot, mate. Because I think if he was fit, I think he'd be 5.
If he was crossing the DCL, he'd be 5.5.
yeah, absolutely. See, that's the thing, right? Lamptey is not for every team. Lamptey is not the right player for every team structure. And I go back to that team structure argument of mine again. But he is the right player for a few kinds of structures. Like, say, for example, I take this risk because I always have at least 2 regular playing benches, right? So 2 seasons back, I could take the risk with Danny Ings, right? Danny Ings was the same guy, right? His legs used to fall off at the drop of a hat, but I could take that risk and it kind of worked. So this might be the right pick for a few specific kinds of teams, but not for everybody. Again, point taken.
No, that's fair. I'm just going to bring another point up. Anyone who owns Wolves players like me, you might want to be thinking about jumping off and buy about game week 16. Look how that swing goes. Minus 0.5 for the left, minus 0.2 for the middle, and minus 0.9 for the right. And also, Reece James's fixtures turn. Minus 0.7. A little bit. So his fixtures get tougher as well by the time you get to game week 16. So just a couple of things to take into account. All right, Gabe. I mean, I love these zonal matchups. I hope the guys. It's nice to see there's plenty of chat going on in the comments as well about these zonal matchups. It gets the juices flowing for sure. We're going to have a look at a scouting report now, Gabe, aren't we? And it's going to be a look at a certain Conor Gallagher.
Yes, sir.
Okay, over to you, FPL Lens.
Yes, here we go. The FPL scouting report is on a very popular Conor Gallagher. This is part one of a 2-part series. This is the Gallagher Smith Rowe conversation. So this week is Gallagher, doing a scouting report on Gallagher. Next week I'll do a scouting report on Smith Rowe, and then you guys can make your own decisions if one, both, or neither is appropriate to get. So I'm just going to start with like some major elements of Gallagher's game, and I'm using the Manchester City game and the Wolves game as kind of evidence. Obviously, both games where Gallagher played well and he returned in both those games. I just want to highlight kind of the strengths in his game and the role that he plays. You know, there's been a lot of talk about Zaha's effect on Gallagher, and Milivojevic, his effect on Gallagher. So I'll go into those details as well. So the first image we have here, we have Zaha pressuring Ederson, kind of right at the top of the 6-yard box. And we have Ayew chasing down, I believe that's Aymeric Laporte, who's kind of towards the top of the box on the left-hand side. And Gallagher is filling the space in between them, supporting the press. You'll see he does this quite a bit. There'll be 2 players pressing, and Gallagher's in behind them, filling that space, waiting. And I'll show you what I mean in just a moment with the waiting. So Zaha's pressing the ball, Ayew's covering the outlet, and Gallagher is lurking in behind, covering the space. Next slide.
There we go.
Here's another example of the same thing. It's kind of like tactics. We have who is that? I believe that is Olise, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that might be Zaha centrally. I don't remember. There are two players on this. The ball's on the right-hand side. Gallagher again supporting the pressure. The two players pressing and Gallagher right behind those two players. So kind of covering the space. We see right behind Gallagher, Bernardo Silva is dropping to receive the ball. This is how Manchester City break lines of pressure, right? They get numbers back, and then they get a man checking from midfield in behind the line. Gallagher sees this. He's a really smart player, and this is his an example of his tactical awareness, where he sees Bernardo Silva coming in to check for the ball. He sees Aymeric Laporte. If you can see in this image, he's actually looking through to Bernardo Silva, but Gallagher is preventing that pass. Next slide. So this is the result of the previous pressure, where Aymeric Laporte, he loses the ball, and Gallagher's in a space where he can jump into that space and recover it. So the result of kind of like just intelligent pressing, he's like a conductor when it comes to pressing. Gallagher is, but he moves people with his own movement, or he moves in accordance with other people's movement. So just that kind of intelligent reaction really makes what makes Gallagher such an important player for Crystal Palace. He recovers this ball that Aymeric Laporte loses thanks to intelligent presser. And the next slide shows another traits of his, and that's his passing. The weight of this ball between defenders for Zaha puts him away from it's Ruben Diaz. I don't know who that is. Maybe Cancelo that's making the recovering run there. Gallagher's pass puts him away from the defender, gives Zaha enough time and space to take the shot. Zaha scores this. I think Ederson could have done better. It probably shouldn't have been a goal. But again, here on display, we have Gallagher's intelligent pressing, his tactical awareness, and his ability to weight passes really well into space. We go to the next slide. Again, we're shown, this is in the Wolves match. Same concept, supporting the pressure. We see the ball is being cleared. That is, who is that? Ayew maybe pressuring there. And we have Olise, I believe, on the right-hand side of kind of attacking the left-hand side of Wolves, or Palace's right-hand side. And we have Gallagher, again, in between them. We see the red box right in the middle. Right in front of Gallagher, where he's expecting to recover the ball. And we go to the next slide and we see that he does recover the ball, and he takes this. This is just a really, I wish I could show you guys video, but I don't think I can because of copyright. But he brings the ball on his chest and takes it down with his left foot and cuts inside. And this kind of just control and instinct to know where to go. You see where the space is in the middle of the box, between the penalty spot and the top of the box. He dribbles into that space, and just showing like his dribbling ability, his control. He gets lucky with the finish. The finish is deflected, but you can see how there's an arrow here. The arrow pointing one way, which is the way the goalkeeper went, and then the purple circle shows where the ball went because of the deflection. Now he gets lucky with a deflected finish, but he created much of this play himself by his positioning, by the way he attacks the ball, the way he controls the ball, and his propensity to just take a shot if he needs to.
I jumped two. Sorry. There we go. Next one.
So this is kind of supporting the two players in front of him, but not defensively to recover balls, in this case in attack. We see Zaha penetrate Manchester City's box on Palace's left-hand side. We see Olise waiting in great space, actually, on the right-hand side. And we see Gallagher pushing towards the penalty spot, arms open. He could have a great shot here if Zaha plays him a good ball. Unfortunately, Zaha's ball. Go ahead. Do you have a question?
No. Keep going. Okay.
So unfortunately, Zaha's ball is a little bit in front of Gallagher. So it goes to Olise, but it doesn't. It goes to Olise's back foot. So what Gallagher maintains space. You see him here. He's kind of like backing up into Rodri. Rodri's trying to is coming towards Gallagher to press him. Rodri, nice. He's getting R's rolled. And Gallagher's arms are kind of wide, and he knows he's going to need to protect the ball. So here, supporting the pressure, good tactical awareness, And then the next slide will show us kind of like how he begins to finish, right? His finishing ability is really, it's interesting. Here, Elise's ball is slightly behind Gallagher. So we see in this image, he's just slightly right of the penalty spot. He's got 2 defenders in front of him. He's got 3 defenders behind him. And he has to lean his body back to take the shot first time. And the next slide shows us his technique.
And that's where it ends up.
No, go one. Hold on.
There you go.
This is the slide. So the technique, we see how he locks his ankle and he locks his leg, and rather than swing through the ball, he just kind of like punches it. It's just a little punch, and there's not much of a swing through, because if he swings through, that ball is going to go sky high. It's going to go meet Bruno's penalty kick that's still in orbit. But he's intelligent, Gallagher, and in these like tight positions, he knows how to hit it, like just sweetly enough to get the ball through, and he's able to keep it down. And the next slide shows us where he put this ball, and it's right off the post on the right hand side. I mean, Ederson is on his knees praying. I think he just can't believe this finish. And so Gallagher's finishing ability in tight spaces, that kind of quick thinking, I find to be extremely impressive. Next slide here, the Milivojevic effect. So, and this is the match against who is that? Leeds. Sorry, this is Leeds. So Milivojevic started in game week 6 through 9, and Gallagher got 10 points in those 4 game weeks. Let's see. So here we see Milivojevic has Gallagher, and I think that's Elise again on the right hand side. You can see the space in the green just behind the defender there, that if Milivojevic does not cut this ball left, Palace are in great space on the right-hand side, but he does cut the ball left. And you have to ask yourself why. And the next slide shows us why. He's looking for Zaha. So some of these players, and I think Milivojevic is one of them, a lot of people are saying that Milivojevic is kind of cramping Gallagher's style or putting a damper on his production. And there are a couple of reasons for this. And this is, I think, the main one is he's trained, he's programmed to look for Zaha. This team has been looking for one player for so long that rather than play a good ball into space on the right-hand side, he'll cut it back. And you got to hand it to him. This was a great pass to Zaha. But if this isn't a great pass, if this is just a regular pass, it doesn't get through. It's a low percentage pass, and it requires something really nice. Zaha does finish this ball. He scores. Milivojevic gets his assist. But I think these kind of blinders show why Milivojevic in the side, and Palace did not do as well with Milivojevic than they do with Kouyaté, who provides extra defensive cover and maybe gives Gallagher more room to roam between those two attackers, like we showed in the previous slides. So I think Milivojevic favoritism to Zaha is what limits Gallagher, and Kouyaté's extra defensive cover gives Gallagher the freedom to track and recover balls and get himself in good situations. So there is an effect of Milivojevic, and there is also a tactical effect.
So just the stats then?
Stats. So here's the thesis. We're going back to the philosophy of the week. We're going to apply it into the report here. So here are the stats. Gallagher, it's interesting that he only has 18.4% of Palace's shots, but he has 26.5% of Palace's XG and 31.1% of Palace's expected goals on target. Thought that was interesting that each level shows an increase. So if we're thinking Gallagher has an average of 0.17 XG per shot away, and an average of this is a good stat, more than double expected goals on target per shot away. Now his expected goals and expected goals on target are about the same for the season thus far. This means that his expected goals per shot at home versus expected goals on target per shot at home are the flip side of this. So his XGOT at home is half his XG at home. I don't know why he's more clinical away. But if we're thinking that Burnley concede approximately 12 shots per home match, and Palace generate 8.6 shots per away match, we can assume that Palace will muster approximately 10 shots in this game. If Gallagher gets approximately 20%, say he gets 2 of those shots, and he maintains his averages, he's looking at a 0.34 xG and 0.7 xGOT from 2 shots. There's hope there. The concern is in the number of shots, but the hope is in what he gets from those shots. So this is encouraging news for Gallagher owners, Gallagher's buyers, Gallagher prospectors. And then we go to the next slide. And
I'm trying to move forward, but the cat sat on the mouse.
The cat sitting on the mouse. That's so perfect.
There we go.
This is your Hegelian theory, huh?
Yes. So that the previous one was the thesis, get Gallagher. Here's the antithesis. Now let's look at
Gallagher. There we go. Here we go. Sleepy Joe comes back again.
That's
so
right.
everybody's just persuaded. You've just persuaded everybody to buy Gallagher, and now you're telling them not to.
Now Sleepy Hagel. Let's call it Sleepy Hagel comes into the mix. And we look at Crystal Palace's matchups, right? The zonal matchups for game weeks 12 through 15, 3.3 down the left, 3.3 down the center, 3.0 down the right. Pretty even across the board. Gallagher seems a good pick because he's been productive with this spread. But when we look at game weeks 16 through 18, and if we're looking longer term, especially with the fixture crunch, we know we will have fires to put out in our team, and Gallagher may not be someone we could move on. The fixtures turn 3.3 down the left, so that stays the same. So things are looking okay for Zaha. When he plays on the left, he has played on the right sometimes this season. It goes down to 2.99 in the center, but the drop to 2.7 on the right-hand side is what really concerns me for Gallagher. And if we've seen Vieira kind of show some tactical acumen here, and if he continues to show that, is he going to favor more that left-hand side with Zaha in game week 16 through 18? Is Gallagher going to be a flash in the pan for now and then a resurgent asset later? I don't know. That he may not be a great long-term investment. He's certainly a decent short-term investment.
Fair enough. Where are you on this, Sean? What's your perspective of Gallagher?
Right. So I was making some points over here, and I'll just jotting down some notes, and I'll just continue with those, both the thesis and the antithesis, as Gabe would say. First, this is pretty much straight from the Chelsea Academy, isn't it? Like, this is pretty much the hallmark of Mason Mount. As in, you were talking initially when Gabe was talking about this, I was like thinking, remove Palace, Gallagher, include Chelsea and Mount, and we will pretty much, that same conversation can continue. Intelligence, pressing, weight of passes, arriving late in the box. And that suddenly reminds me of another player, and of probably for a slightly older vintage, and that's Frank Lampard, right? Probably the greatest FPL player of his price ever, right? His late arrivals, his finishing, the late in the box. And that was actually, and again, Gabe, as I've often mentioned, I do not trust in my own eye test, but I trust in yours. And this did look like exactly very Lampard-esque, right? So, and we all remember what kind of an FPL asset Lampard was. And this suddenly seems to me that this is, this is some kind of a mini Lampard that we have over here. Again, I'm not comparing him with somebody that kind of an FPL legend as Lampard. But that is kind of where I was getting at. This was the note that I was making. The antithesis note, when you were making it, reminded me of two other points. One, Olise, he is 19 years of age and he's coming into form. And pretty much for almost the entirety of this season so far, the attack of Palaces was, essentially Zaha and Gallagher, right? Now Olise is coming into the team, and he's played a couple of matches, and those are like green shoots, right? And Eze had a great last season, and he's back into fitness as well. And Eze makes a big difference in comparison to somebody like what's the other guy, Jordan Ayew, right? So suddenly you have 3 or 4 outlets, and suddenly those passes from behind, they suddenly have more people to target, and suddenly it's not just 2 outlets anymore. So again, the thesis, antithesis, the whole Hegelian thing as well, but it looks great. And I was making notes, and these made a lot of sense to me. So great stuff, Gabe.
Thanks. I mean, what I will say is, Gallagher has gone on record saying he models his game after Lampard. Lampard is his absolute idol, and it shows, right? It shows he has that same kind of spirit. The one thing I'll say about Mount is I don't know that Mount has the finishing ability that Gallagher has, and that's the one element that's missing. But I agree, every other element of the game, it's quite similar. What are your thoughts, Mariner?
Yeah, I mean, look, I very nearly went that route actually with Gallagher, but I ended up thinking I wanted Jota instead. So it was a very, very tough decision. I already own Smith Rowe, of course. So, you know, I've got medals for benching him this season many times.
Well, you're ranked like number 10 in the world for bench points, right?
I'm not far off. Someone did one of these comparisons on Premier Fantasy Tools, and I smashed them out the park for points on the bench. No, I mean, look, I think structure might allow, you know, certain structures might allow both, but realistically, I want Rafinha, I want Jota, I've got Smith Rowe, I can't fit him in. You can't have them all, but he's a great pick.
Yeah.
He really is a great pick. I really like him. I love watching him as well. I think, as I say, he's good on the eye, and he's a fine player, and I'm sure he's got a brilliant future ahead of him. Yeah. And the other thing I'm going to say, I'm very, very impressed with what's happening at Palace as well. Very impressed. I mean, you know, they're doing well, and I think, Shom, you hit the nail on the head. There's players coming back as well, and I think that's going to make even more of a difference. Certainly wants to watch, I think. Okay, fabulous. Right, shall we just have 30 seconds? I need to play a little advert, and then I'm just going to exercise my vocal cords with a beer. So hold on a second. If it's going to work, come on.
Are you craving more FPL content? Then look no further than allaboutfpl.com. Head over there for weekly articles from some of the top content creators on the planet. So what are you waiting for? Head over to allaboutfpl.com, the website for all your FPL needs.
There we go. Just a little shout out for our friend Surya and the gang, Shrini and Surya, across there for allaboutfpl.com. Good friends of the pod. And yes, always nice to just get 30 seconds just to recharge our batteries very slightly. Okay, let's have a look at these fixtures very, very quickly, because I think we've spoken about a lot of these matchups already in a sense, haven't we? By chatting around. So let's summarise these really quick. I think Manchester United are good for 2.5 goals this week. That's my prediction. Their second best prediction with respect to the odds at 43%. They have got the best matchup, okay, as well. And you can see that on the screen. And they're up against flat bottom defence at home. Now, of course, things might change. But at the moment, it's still looking like, I think I back them to bounce back, actually. That's my perspective this week. Chances possibly more likely down the left than the centre or right. 4.3, 3.7 and 3.7. Could this be a Rashford week? Could this be the week for Rashford to explode onto the season? You know, maybe. And your XG, Gabe, you've got 2.13. So you're thinking that they're going to get something as well. And as I say, I expect a reaction. Sean, let me come to you on this one. Do you expect to see a reasonably high-scoring game? Can you see Manchester United doing perhaps what Liverpool did to Watford?
It's possible. But I'd just like to also say that, it is possible, right? There's a gulf of difference between these two teams, right? A considerably better team. Do remember, though, that this is the point where, what is the coach? What is the manager of Watford's name?
Ranieri now, isn't it?
Ranieri. Come on. Yeah. So Ranieri, this is around the time when sometimes you just lose it, right? So this is around the time when Ranieri kind of tries to tighten up the defense, right? So he might actually sit back completely and, try to really play defensive and get a 2-0. So a 2-0 is still a good thing. Cristiano still gets a goal and perhaps etc. But that isn't like, it is really not something that you'll fall off your chair for, right? So that is possible too. However, the flip side is also very much possible. A 6-1 or a 5-1 is possible, but both options there. The left,
I think there's probably. I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet. That's the other thing I would say. I do expect them to concede, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if it isn't 4-1.
Yeah.
That's my view anyway. But yeah, interesting. I mean, there's comments in Abhilash is saying Rashford might just add to our dilemmas in the next few game weeks. It's entirely possible.
Well, the other thing I'll say is, will Ole, you know, they're playing against Watford, will Ole play a back 3 or a back 4? I think that can affect like that left matchup. If they play a back 3, you know, sure, you have 2 up front, and all of a sudden that left-sided matchup is a wing back. So the tactical setup, I think, could make a big difference.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So anyway, we'll keep going. So I think 2.5 goals. Do you agree, Sean? By the way, do you agree with 2.5? You
more or less, yeah.
No.
I'll say no. I'll say no.
So 2-1 against. So we're 2-1 in favour of that one, right? So the consensus is yes. Right, next one, Manchester City 2.5 goals. I added this one in, boys. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist it. It wasn't in the pack originally, but I've put it in now. 49% chance of 2.5 goals. They rank second at home, but they are slightly down with respect to the variance, as you can see from the numbers there. And they're compared to Everton, who are actually 7th defensively away from home at 3.3. But it's still a very, very good matchup. Zone-wise, Manchester City on the left and centre looks slightly better at 4 and 3.8 against 3.6. NetXG suggests 2.38. And the experimental NetXG, Gabe, predicts 3.77. And that's the reason why Sleepy Joe has affected me, and I've actually put them in, because I'm going to back your new metric here and go with, because I needed something to, shall we say, to rubber stamp the reason why I wanted to go for it. I could see roughly why, but I was just that little bit concerned about Everton maybe making it hard for them. But now I see that, I'm thinking, all right, let's go for it. Please explain why it's predicting so much higher than the other NetXG. So your experimental NetXG is predicting 3.77, and your existing one is predicting 2.38. So I'm putting you straight on the spot.
Right. I mean, well done. The honest answer is I don't know yet, because it is.
What are you doing differently? What are you doing differently?
Right. So here's and this one, special attention here to Absurdologist, who's made some good comments on NetXG here in the chat, and we'll connect outside of this later. Because they really are great comments. So the experimental NetXG, this is the way NetXG is evolving. Again, it's a lot of heavy lifting from a data perspective, so we need to find a better way to kind of to build this model. But the NetXG, experimental NetXG, what it does is it takes a look at each individual shot that teams make, and rather than kind of aggregate them, it looks at each one of them together with all of the other metrics. It also treats expected goals prevented differently. So expected goals prevented is the flip side of expected goals on target. And that's the issue, like with NetXG in its current form, is that we're using both of those metrics and it's almost like doing things twice, kind of. And it's also like, anyway, there's another problem with it. But this is our adaptation from that. And you can see already, like NetXG, if we look at the NetXG predictions, they're all within, they're quite tight, as you mentioned, Mariner, right? They're all within between like 2.4 and like 0.7. But here we see a much more of a variance. We can kind of more easily predict clean sheets. Now, I don't have the clean sheets, the zeros predicted in there. I would say don't pay attention too much to the predicted score. That's just rounding. And that's more for like, just to make things look good. But if we're, the idea behind this, what we want to get to, and it's that we mentioned earlier, rather than say, look, Leicester are predicted 0 goals, or let's go Wolves at 1.45, they're predicted 1 goal, right? That could be 2, right? But what I would like to do, where this metric is going, is say, look, it's a 30% chance of 1 goal, 20% or like 15% chance of 0 goals, and 20% chance of 2 goals, something like that, and have a probability range for the predictions. That's the idea. That's where this is going. You can imagine how much work that is, and this is none of our full-time jobs. So So, but yeah, this is just something to track alongside NetXG, and also to underscore the fact that NetXG it's not a product, it's a process. It's an experiment, and that's going to always be changing. And hopefully, you know, if we're doing things right, it will always change and evolve and improve. And this experiment has been developed thanks to the help of at FPL _Senate, who's a brilliant person and has just lended his time and expertise to kind of help me through this. So yeah, 3.77 predicts 4 goals for City, and against Everton with the poor goalkeeping, I can see it.
Don't tell me they're going to concede one though, because I'm going to say they're going to get a clean sheet. 62% chance of a clean sheet. Apparently, that's why I've not sold Diaz. One of the reasons, anyway. It's 20%,
but this goes back to
20% higher than the second best chance for a clean sheet.
This goes back to like just taking the 0.86 from the NetXG and thinking, is that a goal or not? Like, I think that's kind of where the cutoff is, right?
Is that 4 or 5 little chances of, you know, shooting from the edge of the box and scuffing shots in, which basically Edison makes a cup of tea and has a slice of cake and then just picks it up with one hand?
Or is it one big chance that maybe they could score, and then a ton of, you know, tiny chances like the one we talked about earlier, the Harvey Barnes chance, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, and I mean, look at the chances, the best odds, right? You know, say City 62%, 20% higher than Chelsea in second, and Manchester United at 42, and Liverpool and Spurs at 38. So that's where the clean sheets they're predicting this week. I mean, City's matchup's really, really strong. You know, 1.9 improving against 4.2 for Everton. They're still DCL-less. You know, Everton might have some chances. They might get something down the flanks, but through the middle, not a great deal at all. Your NetXG has them at 0.86. Sean, do you agree with me? Clean sheet?
Yeah, 100%. So, and 100% is a big statement to make, but, you know, pretty much. And I'll tell you another reason for it, and it's a little bit of a historical perspective. This reminds me of those olden days Man City versus Newcastle games, where Newcastle concedes. So this was when Rafa was the coach of Newcastle, where Newcastle would concede early, but after that, they'd totally sit back, right? They'd not attack at all till about the 85th minute, right? And Man City would be pretty happy with, you know, with making those sporadic forays up front, maybe getting one more goal, and then pretty much just playing on the back foot, just easing out a little bit. So I see a clean sheet, absolutely. I see an early goal, and I see a clean sheet.
Good. I hope so. I really hope so. I will be. You'll probably hear the scream from India if they concede. I will not be impressed this week if that happens.
And probably a scream back, you know, because I have those two guys as well. So. See, I have all defenders, so all the defenders above 5.5. So.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll keep going. Gabe, will bring you back on this one. Liverpool, 2.5 goals against Arsenal. I'll maybe give Sean the chance to respond here. But they're only 35% chance for 2.5 goals or more. But there is still the second best matchup. Liverpool 2.1. First for attack at home. Okay. And Arsenal 8th for defence away. So that's not too bad. So this isn't so much Everton being bad. Arsenal being bad. This is the fact that just Liverpool are just so good. Although Arsenal's defence is getting worse somewhat compared to where they were. Mo's expected to get 5 chances of the chances down that right. 5 again. Very solid. Trent as well, of course. You know, 4.1 from the left, as we've said before. The NetXG doesn't like it, but I've seen enough. I think it's 2.5 goals. Gabe, do you see 2.5 goals or not?
Before I answer, I'd like to ask Sean, who's going to play left back?
I'd like Tavares to play. You know what? Okay, I might be beat up. I might totally get beat up by other Arsenal fans for this, but I really have liked Tavares, and I cannot say the same thing about Tierney all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So, Gabe, we had this discussion earlier, right? Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not as huge a Tierney fan as so many other Arsenal supporters, and Tavares has been excellent. I hope Tavares plays, and really he's been so good. As in, really, it should be his spot to lose. But then Tierney Tierney, right? The next Arsenal captain and all that. So I'd want it to be Tavares, but I do believe that it will be Tierney.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. We saw Ramsdale masterclass is incoming from Mike in the chat. Yeah, probably, especially if I don't play him.
So to answer your question, Mariner, I don't think it's going to be more than 2 goals, and Arsenal it says their defense is worse, but we talked about this last night. It's worse compared to last season. Still, it's not like they're getting worse this season. If anything, they're improving this season. So I think that variance is going to start getting smaller and eventually go to the positive. I think while I have had my criticisms of Tierney, as you well know, Sham, he sends the same friggin' cross into the box every time, regardless if there's someone there. If there's not anyone there, if there's someone's going to get to it, which nobody ever does. I have problems with Tierney, and I love what I've seen from Tavares going forward. But I think he's a little bit impetuous, young, and
he could get skinned alive.
If he's even in the right position to get skinned alive, I think he could lose positioning, and Mo could sneak into some spaces. But if it's Tierney, I think Tierney, since he's had more experience at left center back as well, I think he will be more defensively sound. And if Tierney starts, I'd say I don't predict Liverpool to score more than 2 goals. If Tavares starts, I could see 3.
I just think that, I mean, look at if Ramsdale turns up and has a stormer, then they might not concede 3 goals. But remember, this fixture difficulty looks at chances, and what would have happened against Leicester if Ramsdale hadn't have turned up that day. You've got to think of it that way. So for me, they are prone to concede chances.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact. So that's what this fixture difficulty is saying. They're conceding more chances now than they were. So yeah, you just have to think of it in that context, really. So anyway, we'll see.
We do have there's another. Just really quickly, Mariner, because Mike Halpin, he's an Arsenal fan. He's commenting that both Tierney and Tavares could play, which I guess is possible.
Okay,
3 in the back. Yeah.
My mouse is playing up there. It must be to do with the cat. Right. Predicted clean sheet now. I'm going to go with Liverpool. This is just for you, Sean.
3-0, huh? 3-0.
No, look, I'll tell you what I'm saying. They've got 4th best odds at 38%. Their ranking's 10th now for defence, Liverpool. It's improving, look, minus 1.5 versus Arsenal away, 4.6, ranked 19th defensively, right? Attacking-wise, sorry, I should say. That's 2.2 worse. Now, if you look at that in context, that if you look at the matchup for the recent, and it's on the international show matchups, because the fixture difficulty, when we showed it there, we only showed the last 6 game weeks of the fixture difficulty, didn't we, Gabe? It's actually over 3 the matchup in Liverpool's favour if you look at the current fixture difficulties instead of the longer period of it. So what I'm saying is this is really strong for Liverpool, actually. It's a lot stronger than it looks. And I'm actually surprised it's only 38%. Maybe they're just thinking that, Arsenal are going to turn a corner a bit and get something. But as it stands, it looks to me that it's a fairly solid shout for a clean sheet this week. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if Trent here doesn't get a double return. I would love it if he did, of course. Liverpool, you say you see 0.9, Gabe, with net XG for Arsenal.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a goal. It's not just because of the net XG factor here, but I'm disagreeing with you a lot. Well, in fairness, the predictions have been wrong a lot lately, Mariner. So I'm going to disagree with you.
So what we do is, if we go one of us is going to be right.
Exactly. Then we can promote the show because it's one of us is right. No, but I'm going to go with Arsenal because of not just the net XG, but also the central zonal matchup. The 3.8 down the 3.8 down the center, and somebody mentioned in the chat, I don't know where it is. Someone said that Klopp had mentioned that it's more likely that Robertson plays than Henderson, and I think Henderson's experience will, and I don't know. I think there could be opportunities in the middle there, maybe.
Do you fancy Arsenal to nip a goal, Sean?
Tough to say. No.
No, you don't. You don't like it. You don't like the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, you just accept. You just. I think it's like me when I follow Grimsby, right? That if I expect if I expect nothing, then I don't get upset.
Yeah, pretty much that. Come to think of it, I'd be delighted if Arsenal does really well and we sneak in a 1-1 or something like that, or maybe a sneaky 1-0 win. I'd be delighted, but the stats do not really match up with that. Arsenal. You know what? And again, if Arsenal loses 1-0 or Arsenal loses 2-0, I'll not be disappointed. This is part of the process. This team is a developing team, the youngest in the league, so I can live with this. As long as there is progress. Yeah.
Should I bench Smith Rowe?
Who would you play instead?
That's a very, very good question. Actually, I'll have to tell you that's out off the show. But at the moment, Smith Rowe sat second on the bench, not first. Right. Let's put it away.
Oh, okay.
Again, he's behind Hwang this time.
Right. Oh, Hwang. So but West Ham always concedes, right? They do well, but they win.
Yeah,
but they
Hwang's on the bench as well at the moment. I've got a benching headache or two, but as someone kindly pointed out on my Twitter earlier on, you've got a benching headache. I said, I'd sooner have a benching headache than a Christmas headache. I said, that was my answer. But anyway, let's see. I mean, look, I'm a past master at benching Smith Rowe for points. So if I bench him, he will score. It's a guarantee. All right.
As long as your team is performing, it's okay, right?
Stupid mouse. Sorry, say again.
So I said, as long as your team is doing well, it's okay, right? If you have some points.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, very quickly, I think it would be a remiss of us not to talk about Spurs a little bit today, because there's obviously been a lot of chit chat about Spurs and the fixtures and this, that, and the other, and about Leeds being such a great fixture. Well, I'm going to tell you it's not such a great fixture, and to be honest with you, the odds don't support it either. 23% for 2.5 goals for Spurs, and actually a better chance of a clean sheet at 38%. Spurs ranked 7th at home for attack, ranked 3 against 11th Leeds defence, 3.4, and they're improving. And Spurs defence is 16th at 3.9 against Leeds attack away at 12 at 4, getting worse. It's a really neutral matchup, guys. Gabe, out of those three there, Mr. Rafinha, Mr. Kane, and Mr. Son, who's going to be the top point scorer in this game week?
That's not cool, man. What are you doing to me?
It's so deliberate. I've got to nail you down to actually get some prediction out of you today. I'm absolutely determined to get a prediction out of you.
You are, aren't you?
I am.
Okay, I'll give you a prediction. I'm going to say, damn, I have to give you a prediction. It's so hard for me, dude. I'm going to say Son.
Right.
I don't know. I'm.
It's so close. I mean, look, there's a couple of things I wanted to bring up. You see, on this topic, right? We look at the matchups for Leeds, and we see 3.9 on the left, 3.4 on the centre, 3.5 on the right. Now, that doesn't necessarily support Rafinha, right? Not that much, unless he goes to the left, which he could quite easily just drift across to the left and go across there and start causing havoc on that side, right?
Yeah, and that's why it's so difficult to make a prediction here, because I mean, when you're looking at, I think they're going to score relatively somewhat evenly. I think they're going to be somewhat equal in their points results this week. But then you look at the price, right? And Rafinha is still grossly underpriced. He's mid sixes versus Son 10 plus, and Kane even more. So, if you were picking one, I'd probably. It's tough. It's tough because Rafinha's fixtures get really tough with the fixture crunch. So you may want to go for Son. I went for Son myself over Rafinha, so that's where I'm gonna land my prediction on. And then when we're looking at the net XG, we see Spurs at 1.73. Now, the Spurs of this season, I'd say that's 1 goal. The Spurs of seasons past, like historic Spurs with Son and Kane, that could be 2 or 3 goals, right? Yeah. So we're going to learn a lot from this game is I think the lesson.
Do you know what? I'm going to go with a high scoring game. I'm going to go with 3-2 to Leeds.
I think Bielsa is going to move Rafinha around. I don't think Rafinha is going to get stuck on the right hand side or the left. I think he'll be moved tactically in different game situations. And I'm going to go for a low scoring. I'm going to go for a low scoring draw, 1-1.
No, I'll tell you what. I'm going to change it. I was joking really. I just wanted to see if anyone would react. I think 3-2, but I think I will go with Spurs. I'm going to fancy Harry Kane coming back from feasting on the international break. And coming back, and I think this might be the week that they turn the corner.
Are you saying that because you got Kane?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping for the best and planning for the worst. Is that the right? I'm already thinking about how I'm going to sell it.
I love that the Kane conversations always bring up, well, how do I sell Kane? How do I get rid of him? Well, Kane to Ronaldo. Don't worry, I'm not keeping Kane. It's like, okay, you love him, but you don't want to keep him. Okay.
No.
Right.
Anyway, but no, Kane could obviously become Ronaldo, and Rafinha could obviously become someone like Bowen or perhaps Ben Rama or someone like that when I go back to them in about game week 16 as well. And
FPL banger.
Someone like Hwang could easily become King.
Sure. FPL banger in the chat brings up a good point. Rafinha versus Spurs with no Skip and no Christian Romero is a tasty prospect. I agree with that.
The only thing is Rafinha tends to just score once. He doesn't haul. He's I don't even know why he's on our show. We're called Net That Haul, not Net the Haul, remember? And why is Rafinha on it? Has he ever had a double return?
I don't think he's ever had one.
Come on, son, to this week's the one. Isn't it? He's just come back on his private jet.
But one goal is 9 points. One goal, 9 points.
2 goals is 15.
Points per goal ratio is high. So I think I consider 1 goal for Rafinha with 9 points a haul. I'm gonna say that.
I don't. I'm sorry. I want double.
Oh, you need that extra one to get the double digits. Come on.
I'm very greedy. I'm going to put the Alchemist on because we're at 1 hour 30. Game. We were trying to get out of here by 1 hour 30. We haven't done the captaincy yet. Right, Alchemist, over to you. Oh dear, oh dear.
Oh yes, this is for all the Tony sellers out there, and the quote is for all Tony sellers as well. The Alchemist pick this week is Ivan Toney. If someone isn't what others want them to be, the others become angry. And I didn't start the season with Ivan Toney, and I was praying that he wouldn't bang initially, and that vision came to fruition. But I think this is his time. So the way I see Ivan Toney is he's a very reactive player. He doesn't like to maintain possession a lot, right? And what he's been doing is he's been linking play to Mbeumo. But against Newcastle, I think Ivan Toney is going to be receiving the ball much higher up the pitch. Newcastle is susceptible down the center. So I don't think Toney is going to need to drop as much, especially if Eddie Howe comes in with an expansive brand of football. I think Toney will see himself in good positions and will punish sellers this week.
Yeah. So are you the one? Are you the one? Mariner says. Have you prematurely thrown your Tony out of the cot?
Don't throw your Tony out the cot.
Don't throw your Tony, the Teddy, out of the cot. Did you rage him out last week? Because if you did, Gabe is saying it could be a serious problem.
I hope it is.
I don't own him. I personally hope he blanks.
I've held on to Tony.
Let's go, Sean. It's Tony time.
Yeah. It's Tony time. Look, I actually think he's a sell. He's a fairly easy sell going forwards. And there's a lot of people starting to question where is the value in the forwards now. And I think that is a reasonable question. So I think Tony perhaps is a fairly reasonable sell after this week. I wouldn't necessarily say this week. Yeah. All right. Let's have a look at captaincy then. So how is the metric doing? Well, it's actually improving finally. We're at 73%. It's still captaining in Salah. It's very boring, right? It loves Salah. It's going to love him for weeks yet. I reckon it might be another 3 or 4 weeks before it goes away from him. It's a bit, but captaincy is a bit boring. But I think what we want to start looking at now is vice captaincy. Who's going to be the vice captain? Because Salah at some stage is going to get a rest, I'm sure. In one of these weeks coming up soon, he's going to get a rest. But the captaincy, we're on 196 points. We're at 17.8 points per game week, 73% hit rate. Thank you, Mo Salah. He's not necessarily tearing trees up at the moment, but he doesn't need to when he scores 48 points, 26 points, 24 and 34 in previous weeks, right? And the one week when we didn't go with him, when we went for Lukaku, we banged as well. Interesting, right? Community poll. Which way do you think the community poll goes before I actually put it on this? Here's a quick straw poll for you guys. What's Salah's EO going to be this week, Sean?
180. 170, 180 around
170, 180. Gabe?
150.
Yeah, I think I'm probably with you. I think it's probably around 150. And I'll tell you why. Because the poll has finally started to just show a little bit of something else coming out. And that is actually Harry Kane, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
And I am so shocked with that. And I'll tell you why I'm shocked. Because Ronaldo is a far, far better option than Kane for captaincy this week. And I'll come on to that in a second.
I love Sean's sigh of disappointment when he sees Harry Kane. It's like, oh, Kane.
Kane, yeah. Well, so we've got, just for the benefit of the podcasters, Salah 64%, Kane 18%, Son 9%, Ronaldo 5%, and KDB 4%.
Wow.
Now, you know, Ronaldo away at Watford, right, with a 2.6 fixture difficulty, with green all over the chances and the zonal matchups, right, and probably with a bloody nose and ready to come back and cause chaos. I wouldn't be at all surprised. 5% of you thought he was a viable captain. The metric also thinks he's a viable captain, but not quite the metric pick. Not quite. It's the closest we've been to a conversation on the captain since the start of October, Gabe, isn't it?
Right. Only 2 points apart since the beginning of October when the metric captain Lukaku, like October 2nd or something like that, 2nd or 3rd. Ever since then, it's been Salah by running away with it. It's not even a conversation. For the first time in weeks, it's a conversation. And then the community conversations are with Kane versus Salah. And that's just really confusing to me.
Well, I mean, the fixture difficulty doesn't like them, for a start. You look at Spurs, you see the fixture difficulty, they're 102.9 against Ronaldo, 119.7. So the large proportion of this, if you compare Kane and Son against Ronaldo, the large proportion of this is actually to do with the fixture difficulty, really. But also, Ronaldo's form, 7.7 against Son's 5 and Kane's 5. So again, look, Ronaldo's forms per 90 is still better at home than he's at home. He's away. So that's his 7 point. That's his away form against Spurs. Against their home forms, right? So look, for me, I'm quite surprised that Ronaldo isn't in more discussions this week. Actually, I mean, it's obvious why Salah is top. It's so obvious. 42% haul, 92% return now. He's returned 11 out of the last 12 games.
It's ridiculous.
Incredible.
It's incredible, right? It's just absolute madness. And that's why he stands out above any of the other Liverpool assets. Look, miles ahead of Mane and Jota. And that's another thing which is really noticeable, Gabe. That's increased, hasn't it? That was narrow before, and now that is really wide. And then you've basically got Salah and then a gaggle of Manchester United players in Ronaldo, Fernandes, and Greenwood. So yeah, interesting.
I will say there's a shout for a Man City player as a captain.
De Bruyne.
Well, I mean, yeah. Which one?
That's the question, right?
I mean, look, I only own Cancelo, and I mean, look, he's not bad, right? 60% chance or 59% chance of a clean sheet, according to these are Hub numbers, by the way. Mm-hmm. So 59% chance of a clean sheet according to Hub, and 28% chance of a goal or an assist. So that's by no means a bad matchup, really. But look, I mean, midfield, I just wouldn't know which one to go for, really. That's the big problem I've got there. I don't own Foden, so I try not to think about him too much, really.
And that's the best way of playing the game, by the way. That's absolutely the best way of playing the game.
Yeah,
you can only control your own team, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I try not to worry too much about it. Yeah. And what do you think, Shom? Are you? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you're a Salah owner.
Yeah, I'm a Salah owner.
Unless you've got three Liverpool defenders, of course.
I've got Trent, Robbo, and Salah, and I will captain Salah. It's cool, but that's one thing. Listen, I'm an Arsenal fan. If this game week I would have had Ronaldo, so I could have considered Cristiano for sentimental reasons. Again, I do not play the sentimental way actually, but for sentimental reasons, I could have considered Cristiano. It's a really good fixture, and if you assume that Man United will win, you'd assume that Cristiano will at least get something. Now Salah might get a bigger haul. Yeah.
No, absolutely. There's a question. I wonder where Reece James would feature if he's in the metric. Not very high this week because the fixture's not great for him. That's why he is in the metric. I've only shown the top few deliberately because this is the conversation's only about these players this week. But yeah, first legitimate captaincy conversation for some time, guys. And I am very interested in seeing whether we had this conversation earlier, Gabe, didn't we? If you owned Salah, Jota, and Trent, and you happen to own Ronaldo, would you? Would you?
Oh man, I think
is just owning Ronaldo enough.
So I think that the way you paint that picture, that context, I think it's feasible depending on what your goals are, where you're ranked, and what you expect from the season and all of that. I personally wouldn't, because I'm following the metric this season, and so I'm at 17 point whatever points per game week for a captain. Last season at this stage, I was at 10. That's after doubling. So my captains had averaged 5 points. So I'm not going anywhere differential for captains. I'm captaining with the herd. The way I play is if I can avoid it, I don't want any player that returns to work that I own to work negatively against me. So if a player is over 100% EO, then that's going to be my captain because I want to cheer for everyone.
My captain as well. I don't own Ronaldo anyway, but look, I'm playing with everybody a little bit because, as I say, the one thing that always strikes me is that don't ever forget the fact that what is the percentage of people who actually own Trent and Salah? It's quite low. What is the proportion of people who own Trent, Salah, and Jota? Very low.
Very low.
Right? Very low. And that's equally a very big differential. So it could easily, if Jota actually gets involved or Trent gets involved in some of Salah's returns, that nets off some of the losses that you might have if you didn't captain Salah, right?
Right. Absolutely.
But I'm not recommending it. I'm being a little bit logical about it. That if you owned all three and you fancied a lot of a gamble, quite frankly, because of Salah's ownership, it's not it is just doable, but not for me. I wouldn't do it personally. I wouldn't recommend it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
it was not the way I play the game.
Yeah, neither would I truly.
All right. Any questions then, just before we finish? Because we've been 143. Gabe, we were trying to get out of here an hour and a half. That's never going to happen when we've got Shom and...
Let's blame Shom.
We all blame Shom.
Shom's been sitting quietly for like 20 minutes. We're going to blame you anyway, Shom.
He said a lot.
That's all right. I can live with that.
Have we got any questions, guys? Can you see any?
Yeah, we have one from T Banky here at 34 past the hour. Rafinha out for... Is it Cornet or is it Cornet? Where's this guy from?
Well, it depends. If you're from Grimsby, it's Cornet.
Cornet
as in ice cream cornet.
The Cornetto.
Yeah, ice cream cornet,
Rafinha out for Cornet over the next 4 game weeks. Thoughts?
Starting
Rafinha out for...
now.
You go first.
I think Rafinha is still talismanic, and I think he's got two very good fixtures in 14 and 15. I would hold him.
Rafinha out for nobody for the entire season unless he gets injured. That's my stand for Rafinha.
I might sell. No, actually, I'm not necessarily with you on that. I might sell him for a West Ham asset because I'm fancying double or even triple West Ham over the Christmas period.
Wow,
interesting. I would say no to that as well. I agree with Sham. I think Rafinha is one of the best priced assets in the game. So he could be sold for in the short term. Not for a player like Cornet, unless I think we need more context with that move. Like, what are you using the money on? Cornet.
Well, like a horse. Nay, like a horse. Cornet. God, we are so bad at names.
Like the horn. Cornet. Let's call it Cornet. I pride myself on my names.
Good God. Right. Here's an exciting move for the international break from Blue Nix 99. Downgrade Damari Gray to Norman Gordon, Basuma Gilmore, Brownhill. Oh,
we just lost about 100 subscribers with this question. Thanks, Nick. Mariners going down in the mud again. He's gone, man.
He's really gone now.
Yeah. We can hear you, but thankfully we can't see you. I'm going to say Basuma. I like him the best. He's good.
Yeah.
Let's make it a quick hit.
Not interested in any.
We all agree on Basuma, Nick. Go for it. Basuma's the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Goalkeeper for game. Well, hang on. Just jump this. Goalkeeper for game week 12, Mariner. Goalkeeper for game week 12. Oh my goodness me.
Ramsdale versus Steele.
I own Ramsdale and I'm thinking about playing Steele. Do you know what? I've not even looked at the matchups yet to see which one's the best. Did we actually see that? Did we look at that? Did we look at the at Brighton against? I'm going to go Brighton. I never try and get through all your slides here, Gabe. There's hundreds of the damn things.
That's just about half of them. There are more that are going in the article. There's a set piece one. Somebody commented on Gallagher's set pieces, which are great. I have
Brighton's defense. Yeah, Brighton's defense is 0.9 ranked fixture difficulty against Arsenal, as I expected, was very bad at minus 2.1.
Yeah.
I think I might have a little dabble this week. I think I might go on Steele. But I mean, I don't know what he's looking at for his goalkeeper, of course.
I think if he's looking to pick a goalkeeper up, who would you bring in?
Good God. I reckon match of the day is going to be the worst game of the weekend is going to be up at Burnley.
Burnley Palace.
I'm going to say Gaeta and a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, that's a fair one.
Fair.
It could easily be last on match of the day, that game. It's always it used to be Hull City all the time, didn't it? They were always last, much to my enjoyment. Any others?
Adam Ramanathan has a question there. Adam Armstrong, maybe to start. It's got a good matchup, that good central matchup.
Got a brilliant matchup. My wife sold him, which is fabulous. That last week, obviously a return. That she nearly delivered the baby. It was hilarious.
See, I have a point here. See, right before Breuer got injured, Breuer was getting the full was starting, right? And Adam Armstrong was not. And then Armstrong came back and scored a goal. So even though Armstrong might very well start, he might not be playing the full thing. That's what pretty much happened in the last game as well. So would you want a 70-minute Armstrong? I don't know. As in, even against Norwich?
Yeah, I'd probably find a better option. There's another question involving Adam Armstrong by Absurdologists. Start one of Armstrong, Smith Rowe, and Livramento.
Armstrong, Smith Rowe, or Livramento? Is Livramento fit?
Yes, I got a notification, I think, this morning.
I would start Livramento.
Ramanathan's question was at Absurdologist, so apologies for that. So out of those, I start Livramento. Easy choice, Livramento for me.
Livramento. I've lost too many points with him on the bench already this season. Never again. 5 at the back for me this week, 100%.
Mariner is turning into me. Look,
I am.
Banger is asking, FPL Banger, Foden or Jota the better transfer in this week? Klopp just said Bobby is getting closer, whatever that means.
What?
This at 50 past the hour.
What do you mean? What do you mean closer?
Well, I mean, obviously he's getting closer. He's not getting further away.
We just told us he's going to be out for 8 weeks.
But he's getting closer. He's closer now than he was yesterday. Exactly.
It's 7 weeks is closer than 8 weeks. Brilliant.
It's Chinese New Year.
It's like those comments like, well, this player is getting older. It's like, well, yeah, we're all getting older. It's like it's comments that mean nothing.
Don't start. I'm just about to bring Jota in. I've already brought him in once for Firmino, and he only lasted 2 weeks. Now I'm going to have to do it again, and then look what's going to happen. Don't you dare do that to me, Klopp. I mean, look. I don't know now. If I've just heard that, I would have said Jota by an easy choice. And the reason why I really like Jota is because we've got the AFCON coming up as well. So eventually we're going to lose Salah and Mane for a period of time, and Jota, providing he stays fit, if Firmino is out for a while, Jota could be a really long-term option, right?
Yeah.
Well, if it's the AFCON, it doesn't even matter if Firmino is fit or not.
No, but still play, right? The other two have gone. Yeah, exactly. But that's the point. The other two have gone, so then there's more chance of Jota still, not being rotated, because he obviously is a bit of a a bit of a risk, isn't he?
Yeah. We have a question from Lennox. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Donny's got a question here. Views on moving to a back five, Shom. I know what you're going to say here. Trent, Cancelo, James, Chilwell, and Royal Reggie. Royal Reggie sounds like some off the craze.
That's regular.
Reguilon.
Royale
versus Royale with cheese versus Reguilon.
Yeah. What do you think? Are you all for a monstrous at the back, Shom? I would expect you would be.
Look, I have Trent and Robbo and Diaz and Cancelo and James. So that's a more expensive backline that he has, and I have that team at this moment. So what are we talking about?
So he's saying yes.
But I have considered. Sorry.
No, you're all right. I actually think though that there's so much value in players like Livramento. I think you can do with 4 of them.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's my view. I think you can get away with 4.
Yeah. No, you truly can. The only point that I have over here is that I have considered Jota versus Robertson, and I've kind of picked Robertson. So that's pretty much that. Nothing else. So it's like just picking the third Liverpool player one against the other.
Right.
I've picked Robertson.
You've been so patient with Robertson. He's been crap.
Well, he hasn't. If you look at the stats, you'll see that if you put Robertson's and Shimikas's points together, that will be about the 5th highest scoring defender.
Thanks to Shimikas. Thanks to Shimikas. Not thanks to Robertson.
That's fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. But
we'll get done for bullying. We'll get done for bullying next time.
Can't wait to bring our next guest on. We can beat him up.
To be honest, look, I ran. These power tables that I ran. Robertson was last.
Wow.
I've hated watching Robertson this season. It's been painful to watch.
But I'll just give 2 examples, right? The 2 game weeks back, and I noticed these because I own this guy, right? 2 game weeks back, there was this cross that came in from TAA where with Jota headed in, Robertson was right behind him, right? So if Jota wouldn't have been there, it was a Robertson goal. Last game week, Robertson makes a cross, which Mane gets. It's a 1 against the goalkeeper, and he hits straight into the goalkeeper. These are all points, right? These are all technically points that could have come to me, but they haven't. So I'm being patient. Again.
You are so patient. You're far more patient than me. This computer would have been out the window by now.
Let's power through some more questions here, so we can get through all of them. We have a question from Amund. Still got double Chelsea defense in Chilwell and James, but considering to downgrade Chile, maybe to Mitchell, and upgrade Vardy or a mid. Thoughts?
I wouldn't downgrade Chilwell anytime soon. That would be me, not for Mitchell. I would stick with Vardy if that was your option.
I agree. Leicester's fixtures will be turning. I think the delta going from Chilwell to Mitchell will be greater than the delta going upgrading Vardy to Kane.
Chilwell is a brilliant pick.
Yeah, I agree.
I haven't got James.
There's another question from Lennox Desborough. Jota or Kane in for a -4 would be Jota for Rafinha / Bernardo or Kane for Vardy. Oh, Jota. Which one? Bring in Jota or bring in Kane for the -4?
I wouldn't take Rafinha out. So
I think the biggest delta is Bernardo. Bernardo out, Jota in.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, you could get away with it. You don't like Kane anyway, so you're going to be biased.
It's not so much that I'm looking. I mean, I think Kane, either Kane or Son is a good pick. I understand why somebody would want to go with one of them, and obviously for your team, Mariner, it was easier to get to Kane. I have no problem with that. For me, it's the players you're replacing, and I think Bernardo Silva, while he's had an incredible season, I think from an FPL perspective, he's the most suspect out of those three that he's looking to move out. So that's the one I would move.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Nothing to add. All right.
What else have we got? Very quickly, we need to get out of here in less than 4 minutes because I want to be under 2 hours.
Yeah.
Here's one. Ramanthan. Start Gallagher or Mitchell if you have both. That's interesting.
Gallagher. Start the attacker.
Gallagher.
Yeah. Me too. And I expect Burnley to score.
I wouldn't be at all surprised. Cornetto might score. Mr. Ice Cream, that's his new name.
Cornet.
Cornet, as in the horse, goes neigh, right? That's what it's Cornet. I must remember. I'm destroying people's names. Who else have we got? Anyone else? Any other questions before we get out of here?
I think there was one from a late one coming in from Sonaldo.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to ask a classic FPL YouTube comment question. Mbomo, Tony, Juan, Livermento, start 2.
Boomo, Tony,
Juan, Livermento.
Start 2.
Start 2. This is an easy one.
So here's my question. You have held on to Boomo and Tony for this while, right? Why wouldn't you play that out, right? Let the move play out. It's Newcastle. You have held him on for Newcastle. Play the move out.
Right?
And then we can see the next game week. Move them on if they haven't performed. Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. I was going to say the self-same thing. Play him. I'd just be worried sick about Livermento on the bench because that
Tony and Livermento for me.
Yeah, the only thing which would worry me is Livermento sat on the bench. Livermento, if that was the case, Livermento would be first bench and hope,
I don't think you need to double up on Brentford in poor form.
No, I mean, look, I agree with Sean though. If you've got them, why not just give them a go? It's actually a very, very nice differential. If it pays off, it could. And look, Norwich, new manager. He didn't play FPL for long, did he? By the time I did that VOD, he'd already got a new job.
You told Dean Smith to go try FPL for a while without a job, and then he got a job. I think Tony and Livermento. I think for me, it's an easy choice. There's no reason to double up on a team that's not in form, a player that hasn't been able to really put it in the back of the net, while another player that keeps getting clean sheets, gets a random goal. You might as well diversify the assets, in my opinion.
I know what you mean, but I'm just of the opinion that if you've got them, just play them and just be done with it, right? Because then you're probably going to move them out. That would be me. I think I quite fancy it. What funny feeling they might get something this week. Your net XG suggests they're going to get something. You're going against your own thing again.
I'm going for Tony. Tony's the man, and Mbomo. I just think in this game against that type of defense that allows a lot of space in front of their back line and in the center of the field, I think Mbomo won't be the one making those runs into there. I think Thomas Frank is gonna switch it up and push Tony a little bit higher and drop Mbomo, especially against an easy defense. That's what I would do. I like Tony way more than Mbomo.
What score is it going to be?
2-1. 2-1 Brentford.
I'm going to get some predictions out of you at some stage.
I'll tell you something. I love it how Chris was just putting, Gabe onto the spot.
Fantastic. Exactly.
We know each other too well now.
That's true.
Now, Sean, I'm afraid we've been on this show far too long, and we're
far too long. We're about to hit 2 hours, Mariner. You're gonna lose your shit.
It's time to go. So, Sean, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to see you from India, and congratulations for getting onto the Indian Premier Fantasy Premier channel as well.
Yeah, thank you. I loved it.
You want to take one quick question from Craig from FPL Expectations?
Oh, congratulations on your wedding, Craig.
Yes, Craig.
Yes.
Congrats, mate. Yeah.
You're certainly punching over your weight. That's all I'll say.
Craig's like, I don't care about my marriage. Answer my fantasy question.
Currently, Kwang's on his bench. He'll be on my bench as well, mate. Diaz and Rudiger starting. Antonio, Tony, Boomo, Livermore, and Rath. 3-5-2, all good. Kwang on the bench. Diaz and Rudiger start. Antonio, Tony, Boomo, Livermore. Yep, I think so. Yeah. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, me too.
But no, congratulations, Craig, from all at Net That Haul.
Don't bench Diaz.
And if you don't watch, if you don't go and I'm going to give his channel FPL Expectations a shout out. If you don't go and have a look at them, what are you waiting for? Get across there. They do a really nice deadline stream. Underwatched. Get on there and go and catch them.
It's fun.
They're a good bunch. Joe's on there and a few of the other lads and so a lot of the lads. So not divorced yet. That's all right then. That's a good start.
So far, so good.
Right. Anyway, what are we waiting for? It's time to go. As I said, Sean, thank you very much. Gabe, a pleasure as always.
Always
Nice to see you. And I hope you come back on next week. I won't be here. That's one reason why you'll be able to come on.
Then I'll be back, Mariner. Then I'll be back.
Get put on the spot next week.
I just want to give a shout out to the people in the chat. Really, just thank them. We didn't have to ask for any likes, and I love when we don't have to ask. People are just liking it and having a good time. The questions are fantastic. We got a good amount. I don't know.
No,
31 watching, 41 likes.
That's not enough.
We have so just to paint the picture, we have 1/10 of the viewers, of the live viewers as the Scoutcast, for example, and we have the same amount of likes. So the engagement that we get from the haulers is really just, that means the world. That's all that matters to us. So thank you. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, all you Net That haulers. And with
that,
and with that, I am going to go and I was going to say, and with that, I am going to go and entertain myself with nappies for 2 weeks.
Congratulations. Yes. Congratulations. Yeah, and good luck.
So everything goes, I'm sure everything will go smoothly, but yes, I will catch you in a couple of weeks, everybody. But in the meantime, what do we say? All the very best. Green arrows. Please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe. Please hit the bell. Follow me, FPL Mariner, for at Bacon Boy FPL, at FPL Lens. We are Net That Haul. Thank you very much and good night. Bye-bye.
Peace.
I will get a prediction out of you one day, Lens. I will. I'm serious. It's getting so bad. You know, you're gonna have to get off your blooming. You get splinters up your ass. You sit on that fence so often. I'll see you soon. All the best, haulers.
Yeah,
Green arrows.
Bye-bye. Yeah, good one. Yeah, I hope I didn't ramble too much, hey guys.
We're still live. No, you didn't. No. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.